This video is brought to you by Soundcore. Hey friends, how's it going? So I have reviewed the Motion X600 from Soundcore in the past. I'll link to that video in the description below. But now they have brought this X500. Obviously, this is a slimmer, more compact unit that's actually less expensive than the X600. And normally when you pay less for a less expensive model, then you almost expect to lose some features or sound quality and this and that. But here, actually, you might actually prefer the X500 versus the more expensive X600, and I'm gonna explain why in this video. But I wanna quickly mention that when it comes to sponsored videos for Bluetooth speakers, I ask always to test the Bluetooth speakers first before I actually agree to any sponsorships, because sometimes they're just not it and I just can't recommend it. And of course, I will do sound demos in this video so that you can hear the speaker for yourself and determine if this is something you might want, or at least get a good idea of the tonal characteristics. But starting with the features, again, when you're paying less, you almost expect to lose features here, but when you compare the features side by side, like waterproof capability, as well as LDAC, which is a better codec for high resolution playback when you use Android devices, which again, if you want to learn more about that, check out my X600 review because I go in more depth about that. But both of these have those capabilities. Both of them have 12 hours of playback. You don't lose much features despite the fact that you're paying a little bit less for the X500. In fact, the X500 actually seems like almost an improvement from the X600 in the sense that it actually has a totally different driver configuration and design choices when it comes to sound versus the X600, which is using multiple different drivers. Instead, on the X500, you get 3 full-range drivers, and that is it. So you get 2 drivers up on the front and then 1 on the top for the spatial audio. And again, it's activated by the same button on the X500. And again, I will say that I said this on the X600 as well. Yes, the audio without the spatial audio function sounds decent on both of these units, but I just don't see myself listening without them because the spatial audio sound out of these two just sound better than without the spatial audio function. So for me, it's kind of like just turn it on, keep it on. But let me know in the comment section if you guys have any ideas or use case scenarios where you would want to turn the spatial audio function off. Because again, all it's doing is making sound more spacious, and at least for me, allowing the music to feel like it's coming from more all around me rather than being like, oh yeah, it's coming from right here, right? So when I have the spatial audio function off, I can tell that it's coming from here. I can tell that it's coming from the speaker itself. Not that it sounds bad, but I can just tell. And that kind of breaks the illusion of the music playback. But when I put the spatial audio function on, whether I am cooking something in the kitchen or I'm just outside in my backyard or whatever I'm doing where I'm not in my stereo space to actually dedicate time to listen to music, this does the job. I mean, and like I said, with the spatial function on, it's harder to localize the speaker and it just sounds like the music is coming from all around me, which is good and which sounds more natural and sounds like I actually have like ceiling speakers or speakers around me rather than a speaker that is just placed on a desk or on a platform of some sort and just playing. So in that way, I think Soundcore has really nailed this spatial audio technology in terms of just being budget friendly and actually working to make it sound better. And again, same thing I mentioned with the X600, spatial audio music that's recorded for spatial audio sounds good. Movies that's meant for spatial audio sound good with spatial audio functions like this. But it doesn't sound so good when it comes to other music, the music that you would play on your playlist that's not recorded for spatial audio. So you have a selected amount of music that you can play back that would sound good with spatial audio. But in this case, like I mentioned with the X600 again, Soundcore has done their own algorithm. They have their own chip that does the spatial audio function. They kind of remixes it, or I don't know exactly what's happening. But essentially, any music that I play, whether it's recorded for spatial audio or not, it just sounds better with the spatial audio function on. And it does exactly what it's supposed to do, which is make the sound more spacious and less localized, and fill the room with sound while it's less localized so that you don't feel like it's coming from this one single point source. So that in that way, I do really like the spatial audio functionality on both of these speakers, and I think they do an equal amount of good job in terms of that spaciousness added to the sound. And again, for the third time, I don't see myself turning off the spatial audio, like ever. Now, outside of that, when you go from the X600 to the X500, you are losing a single button, and that's the bass boost button. But again, I don't mind this whatsoever because I also found the bass boost button to be nice on the X600. It's more accessible than going through the app. But again, through the app, you have the functions all available for EQ with the speaker. So you can essentially do your own bass boost, or you could just literally tune the speaker to however you like. You can EQ it to however you like to make it sound more to your taste. And when it comes to EQ, this is where I feel like the X500 does a better job than the X600. You see, the X600 uses many different drivers and is accompanied by a full range driver for the spatial audio, or sky channel as they call it. And the problem with that is because of the crossover points of different drivers in here, as well as just the fact that there is more to work with, sometimes when you're trying to EQ a certain frequency, then it might be actually harder and the speaker may actually fight to not be EQ'd. So it's a harder job to EQ a speaker like this that has many different drivers versus the X500, which now has just simply 3 full range drivers. And I personally just found that the X500 EQs and responds to EQ much better than the X600. Maybe because, like I said, it's using simpler full range drivers. Since full range drivers like these play a wide range of frequencies, it plays all the frequencies instead of playing selective frequencies like on this speaker, the X600, with a tweeter playing the high frequency and the midwoofer playing the mid-range and stuff like that. So really, it just behaves and EQs way better than the X600 in my personal experience. And the last reason I personally like the X500 better is this lighting on the top. I mean, why didn't we get that with the X600? The X500 just looks so much better with that lit up sky channel, and it just gives a little bit more emphasis on that sky channel and just makes the unit look better. I don't know, it's just personal taste, I guess, but me being able to see the driver behind this metal grille just makes it look much better in my opinion, and makes it more, I don't know, just looks cooler in my opinion. Now, a small difference between the X600 and the X500 where you might actually prefer the X600 and go with the X600 is in the back where the charging port is. So both of them charge equally well, and both of them charge through the USB-C port on the back, but you do get a 3.5mm on this X600 so that you don't have to use Bluetooth all the time, whereas the X500 is strictly a Bluetooth speaker. It does not have that 3.5mm input. Now, circling back to the sound aspect, also personally for me, I feel that the X500 is a little bit more V-shaped sound than the X600, whereas the X600 I found to be a little bit more balanced. The X500 is a more of an exciting sound, so it does have a little bit more sparkle, a little bit more treble emphasis on the top, and it has a little bit more bass in the bottom. So it does have that little bit of V-shaped sound that people do like because it has a little bit of that extra bass and extra treble, which by the way definitely makes it sound more hi-fi or high fidelity, whatever you want to call it. But again, when companies do this, sometimes it's a huge miss because the sound is now thin and bright and is not very well controlled, it's not very refined, the bass is boomy, and that's kind of the experience I had way back when I bought Bluetooth speakers during university days. And that's just why I just never really liked Bluetooth speakers. But with the X500, just like the X600, the bass isn't overbearing, and you can increase the bass to make it sound unbearable. But I mean, at least the speaker can handle it. I don't know, I've heard some Bluetooth speakers when I crank up the bass through EQ, just go. That's called clipping, by the way. Anyways, the whole point is that this speaker is able to handle it. So if you're at a party or if you want to increase the bass so you're jamming out, then you can do that with the X500. However, if you're just someone that's like, okay, you know what, I'm in the mood today for jazz, I'm in the mood today for some balanced sound quality, then you get that with the X500. Again, it's not tremendous amount of bass texture or all the nuances you would get from a traditional high-end hi-fi setup, but you don't expect that with a product like this. This is a budget-friendly Bluetooth speaker that is great value for the money you pay. And considering that, the bass is actually pretty darn good, and I would say even a little bit more preferred than the X600's bass. Personal taste, of course, you may like different things. And the reason I say that is because I just find the bass to be a little bit more tighter, a little bit more controlled, a little bit more piston-like, a little bit more impactful than the X600. The X500's bass, I really dig, I really like it, and I highly recommend it if you are someone that likes quality bass, not amount. You can get speakers out there, party speakers that's booming out bass and subwoofers and stuff like that. That's not what this is for, but it does have, like you've heard, a tremendous amount of bass if you demand it. And again, the treble quality is not bad at all. Like, it's listenable, it's actually detailed, it's actually quite airy and spacious, especially with the spatial audio function on. And overall, it's not bothersome. It's actually quite nice when you are out and about, because when you're outside or when you are in a garage working or something like that, then sometimes the high frequency, you might want to tone it down through EQ, but sometimes you like the way it sounds. I like the way it sounds sometimes because, well, it adds that little sparkle. Especially when you're in an outside environment, it's just a lot harder to hear, and because you don't have room boundaries, you don't get that high frequency reinforcement or bass reinforcement for that matter. So sometimes you want that V-shaped sound, and I think that's kind of what they went for here, is for it to sound good in majority of spaces. So, you know, having that slightly, it's not too much, just slightly V-shaped sound, a little bit more bass and a little bit more treble. I think they did a good job here.
I know we'll make it right. We've been here before. I know we crossed the line. It's hard to ignore. This way is down on me. You've got me on my knees. Won't you give me the sweetness and light for my restless mind? Please give me a way to escape this world gone astray. You could give me a little peace of mind in these troubled times. Won't you give me a way to be free from these chains that bind me?
And again, as you've heard in that demo, the high frequency is actually pretty crisp. It's not bright or forward sounding or aggressive or kind of sharp sounding. Well, at least for me. But let's say you didn't like the demo, you got the speakers and you don't like the treble or the bass. Well, like I said, you can EQ that much easier on the X500 than the X600. And depending on the environment or depending on your taste, you can EQ it to your taste. So the factory set sound isn't really stuck on here. So all I'm explaining is what they sound out of the box, and really the overall sound quality and the flexibility here is immense. So which one would I personally choose now that I have heard both X600 and the X500? Well, personally for me, I think I'm gonna pick the X500 up more. It's less expensive. Second, it makes a great gift if I feel like I'm gonna give someone something that truly sounds good and that can lead them to perhaps consider upgrading in the future. I think the X500 will be the one that I choose instead of the X600. Because again, just the fact that this again has the same amount of battery hour, doesn't lose much features, and actually EQs better, makes me want to pick this up. And the fact that it's lighter makes me want to take this wherever I go versus this. So that's pretty much it from me. I hope this video was helpful. informative, and if you enjoyed it, then please click that like button. It does help my channel out greatly and it doesn't cost you anything. So that's pretty much it from me. I hope to see you guys in the next video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.